In today's video, we will be discussing tips and tricks on creating the perfect moss triangle. It's a little bit about the moss triangle, and this is all in the instructions, just sometimes it's easier to have a visual as well. Care. The moss triangle doesn't require any care, doesn't require any water or light. The reindeer moss especially might get a little bit crispy if you live in a dry climate during the winter, so it is important just every month or so to mist the triangle and the moss to maintain the fluffiness of it. We do recommend taping off your triangle before starting, as the moss has dye that can transfer to your hands and then transfer to the wood. So if you just tape off the front portion, then you won't see the green dye on your triangle. If you do get green on your triangle, you can just sand it out. So now let's talk about gluing, or the anatomy of the moss. Here we have the pole moss, so you can see that there's this green fluffy exterior, and then on the other side we have the brown part. For the glue, you will be gluing this brown flat part, not the green part. This is what you want to see on your triangle. And we just recommend that you go all the way around with glue and also inside. This will just help to adhere the moss, and make sure after you glue that you work quickly, because the glue does dry quickly, and that you press down for about 10 to 15 seconds just so it is adhering properly. For the reindeer moss, there's a couple parts to the reindeer moss. We have this fluffy head, and then we have this less attractive foot. So when you're gluing down the reindeer moss, you'll want to put the glue on the foot part. So this is where you would glue, and then on your triangle, you would press down like this. If your piece is exceptionally long, in the instructions we say not to rip it. You don't want to be ripping it into multiple pieces, but if it is exceptionally long, you can rip it in half, and then you have two pieces that you could use. If you have a piece cluster that's quite large, you can also separate it like this. When you're gluing it down, you want to keep your moss vertical, so you don't want to put it horizontal, because you lose that really fluffy, attractive bit. So we do recommend keeping things vertical. And then we have our sheet moss. So again, you'll be putting the glue on the brown bits, not on the green. This is what you want to see. And really important that you get all the edges so that it's not lifting up. With your sheet moss, you can go ahead and cut it, and this will keep the brown from being seen. If you rip it, sometimes you don't rip it evenly and you have a lot of brown, so cutting it is good. You can rip it as well, but just make sure that you're not ripping it into a million pieces. It's easier to work with in larger pieces. And then we also have pit. The pit works to add another texture and dimension to your moss. You are welcome to cut the stem if needed, but you will want to kind of tuck it within the moss, and then position it first, take it out, put a little dab of glue, and then tuck it back in. If you can see the dab of glue that you added on top of your moss, then you can just take another piece of moss and cover it with that, but it should try to glue it down to the bottom of your triangle. When hanging your triangle, you can just use a normal screw in the wall and hang it from the back. You don't have to hang it either. It has a flat bottom, depending on which way you place it. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have fun making your triangle. Make sure to tag us in your finished products at Verde Plant Shop on social media.